G'day, it's the 25th of March 2026. Let's get on with it. Today's edition of Message of Hope. Well, I walked into my house, which I let out to tenants, and I immediately knew something was wrong. The stain near the laundry was too obvious to hide. The floorboards, wow, they were cracking. It was warped. And the damage that the water has done hadn't stayed where it started. So by the time the insurance assessor was finished, the entire floor had to come out, he says. So it wasn't just the affected section, the whole thing. Thousands of dollars, ka-ching, ka-ching. The dining chairs were damaged too. Security door was also damaged. What else, hey? Now the tenant couldn't hide it during my inspection. They don't think they tried. Now I had the landlord insurance, and standing in that room I was deeply grateful that I did. Smart move, I thought. Because without it, that repair bill lands entirely in my lap with no cushion and no recourse. But here is what I haven't told you yet. For most of my adult life, I didn't think much about insurance at all. It's not something you wake up and think about, right? As a single man, it felt like an expense I couldn't justify. Life insurance, income protection, trauma cover, the lot. I look at the monthly premiums and I make a quiet calculation that I'll rather keep the cash. Yeah. I didn't know any better, you see. So I was young, I was healthy, and I'll deal with the issues much later. Well, later arrived when I got married. Because the moment someone else is depending on you, that calculation changes completely. Sure or not, it stops being about you, and I think that's the moment most people finally understand what insurance actually is. It's not the before activity. If this landing for you, if this makes sense, please hit the subscribe button, and yeah, there'll be more videos I can come through. Now, I had a colleague once, definitely wasn't a Christian, and not a particularly humble man, I feel. He had a theory about insurance and he delivered it in front of a group of us at work with the confidence of someone who's just thought of something clever and wanted the room to know it. He thought he was clever than me. That's fine. It happens. Insurance, he said, was no different from gambling. You're betting someone bad will happen. The house always wins. Well, what does that mean, eh? I didn't argue with him at that time, but I thought about it since, and here's what I would say now. He had the metaphor exactly backwards. Hear me out. Gambling is putting money you can't afford to lose on an outcome you can't afford to control. Correction, you can't control. You are hoping to gain more than you started with. Insurance is putting aside a small, predictable amount so that when something you can't control arrives, you don't lose everything you've built. That's not the idea. You've got to put some safeguards in life, right? Rail guards. Those are not the same activity. They're the complete opposite. Think about it. Not insuring yourself isn't a plain safe. It's Russian roulette with your family's financial future. Now, I don't know many people who sit down to that table voluntarily if you name the game honestly. Have a listen to what Paul writes to Timothy and notice how direct this is. But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Now 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 8, that was. Paul doesn't say it was nice to provide for your household. He doesn't say consider it carefully when you get a moment. He says failing to provide is a denial of faith. Worse than an unbeliever. That's pretty harsh, isn't it? Now I know that language is confronting, but stay with it. Because insurance is provision. That's right. That's what it is. It is the deliberate, advanced decision to make sure that if something catastrophic happens to your health, Your income, your life, your property. The people depending on you are not left exposed. You're trying to be responsible. My colleague was trying to make an argument about money. The Apostle Paul is making an argument about love. Which one's more important, do you think? They're not the same argument and they do not have the same answer. Let me point you to another Bible verse, Proverbs 27 verse 12. It frames it differently but arrives at the same place. The prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it. Do you like the word suffering? The prudent person doesn't wait to discover whether the danger is real. They act it before it arrives. And a friend from our church, I know him well enough to say that he's a decent person, wasn't insured on his car. He smashed into another vehicle. I don't know the exact amount he had to pay, but I know enough about third-party liability that's without cover to know that one moment will follow him for some time. This is not bad luck. Who's saying that? That is a foreseeable risk that wasn't prepared for. Now I want to talk to you about the woman who managed my insurance account. One day she came to see me in person. Partly to check in, but I think partly, I suspect, to see if there's more business to be had. Which is fair enough. You're going to make a buck or two, right? And somewhere in a conversation she said something I've kept. She said she hoped I would never have to make a claim. Oh, I asked why. She said because if you do, it means something terrible has happened. Yeah, that makes sense. She didn't mean don't claim because your premium will go up. She meant the payout was never the point. The point is the thing that triggers the payout. And she hoped genuinely that I never find out what that felt like. And that is the most honest thing anyone in financial service has ever said to me. Yep. Now here's a brief practical note worth mentioning here. Especially you traveling around the world or going to holidays, think about travel insurance. In this particular context, we all know there's a conflict in the Middle East. And this has taught Australian travellers a hard lesson about the war exclusion buried in their travel policies. Multiple determinations by the Australian Financial Complaints Authority have gone in favour of insurance who deny claims for trip cancellations related to the conflict, get this, since October 2023. Travellers were left with whatever the cruise line or tour operators chose to offer. So you don't have much control there. This is not a comfortable place to be standing, is it? I urge you, read your policy, understand what you're actually covered for and what you're not. A policy you don't understand is not the same as being protected. And if carrying all the cover you need feels too expensive right now, yeah, okay, I understand that. Every dollar counts, right? I made that same calculation for years, but here's what I would say to my younger self. At a minimum, don't carry outstanding debt without any cover at all. An uninsured person with a mortgage, dependents, and no income protection isn't being frugal. Don't play Russian roulette. They're leaving the people they love exposed to a risk they could have done something about. So let me put back Timothy chapter 5 verse 8 back in front of you. But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. It's not a gentle suggestion, it's a direct charge. My friends, look at the people in your household. The one who goes to sleep at night without worrying, because somewhere they trust that things are in order. Now ask yourself honestly, if something happens to your health, your income, your life, tomorrow, the day after, would they be provided for? Or would they be managing a financial crisis on top of everything else? My account manager hoped she'd never hear from me to make a claim. The whole floor came out, my whole timber floor, but I was glad I'd made the call. That's it for today. It's been glad to have you on board. I'll speak to you on the next one. Cheers.